There are bridges, bridges in the sky, they are shining in the sun. They are stone and steel and wood and wire, they can change two things to one. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than a wall. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than a wall. There are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, and they are all devoid of light. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, and let us cross it with a song. Let us span another canyon, let us right another wrong. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. We will tell them building bridges.
We'll tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Thank you, Bill Staines, for letting us use the Bridges song on Bridges Programming. Welcome to Bridges Programming. This is Wednesday World Call-In. Our phone number will be on the screen in a few minutes. It ends with the word HREM. The numbers will correlate on your phone, so it's you'll see the call-in number, which we'd love you to call in if you have a chance. If you're watching this when it's not live, please tell your friends about it, and you can call in on Sunday afternoon from 10 to 11 and Wednesday from 10 to 11. One's World Call-In and one's Sunday on the Front Stoop. Same phone numbers, same topics. One's a little more directly related to belief systems. Of course, Sunday, the religious portion, we bring out about people's belief systems. And on Wednesday, we try to get your opinions. Everybody's entitled to their own ridiculous opinion, and some of them are really good ideas. So we are here. My name is Jeff Bella. Next to me is Susan Coman, and on the phone with me is Dennis Carius. And
hello, Susan. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Dennis. Nice as always to hear your voice. Now you can see the screen, and
yes.
It says Bridges Programming, and it shows Human Renewable Energy Measure now. And then, of course, we're going to bring up the HREM.org and Renew the Earth, which is a nonprofit organization, been around for a long time. And we try to sponsor renewable energy. And here's your call-in number, 863-812-HREM. You can correlate that when you see the number on the screen. So that's the number, and we're going to be talking today. Dennis, did you happen to see the topic for the day?
Yes, I could even read it right now.
Go right ahead.
Good, and this is in quotes now. Quote, "We have learned in the last decade from our behavioral science studies that aggression is a secondary behavior of humans, that when they get what they need," okay, I'm reading it now. It just, the screen just switched. Okay.
Continue it?
When they get what they need. I got it now.
Oh, okay, good.
Good. When they get, let's see, when they get what they need, when they need it and are not overwhelmed, they are spontaneously benevolent. It is only when they become desperate that they become aggressive, because what they have relied on is no longer working. End quote. That's a quote from Buckminster Fuller, right, Susan?
That's right. Yeah, and I'm recently, Dennis, going through our older
Thank
programs.
you, everyone.
I'm recently going through our older programs and transcribing them for the hrem.org site, so you can actually see, read transcriptions of our programs on the hrem.org site. They're in note form. They're in, you know, they're not like reading a book, but they're like reading
Bullets.
stream of consciousness bullets and whatever notes that I took during the programs, things we spoke about, quotes that we spoke about, references to other things to read. And all of this has a bearing on understanding the concept of the human renewable energy measure. And eventually, I'm hoping all these transcribed programs will, in some magical way, formulate a coherent progression, so that I can or someone else can go from these notes and write a book that will be very useful and easy to understand. And as we've said many times about this concept, the HREM concept, the human renewable energy concept, that we are asserting is missing from our economics. And if a book is sometime written, this could be a very good thing. Another thing that gets the idea out, because people like to have a book in hand. It's useful in universities where people can use that as another angle to think about when they're being taught about economics, or about the history of economics and where we are at this point. But anyways, I'm transcribing all these programs, and I'm in the section now where we were intensely commenting on Buckminster Fuller's book, Critical Path, and took it chapter by chapter by chapter. And I did a lot of note taking. And if you don't want to spend, a year reading this book, which is 2 inches thick, go to those notes that are now being posted on the hrem.org site. There are at least 30 pages of them now. That's a lot shorter than Critical Path. But anyway, you can go there, see what I took out of the book. It's, direct quotes from him. And then you can go into the book itself and read more in those in sections where he's referring to the things you're interested in. I found almost everything he was saying interesting, and it's just a matter of getting used to his language. And he makes up words, which is delightful, I think. And it's really funny when you're transcribing and you have to transcribe, exactly what he said, and he's got a made-up word in there, or he's taken a word and added a different ending than Google has ever seen or even considered, or the spelling thing jumps up and it changes it to something it knows. And then you have to reassert that that's not what you want. You want it like you typed it in, and it'll change it again. And then you have to do it at least 3 times before it'll just kind of give up and then underline it as incorrect and let you proceed. It's kind of funny because you're fighting with the machine over a word that that's been created by Buckminster Fuller, and it just is a little more refined in terms of what he's trying to convey. And it's funny because creating language and new words and slang and things like that is another form of the individual asserting themselves, and that's what we're doing. We're individuals asserting a concept that we just cannot give up.
You have
We
to,
feel that
we-
it is an
it
important
is,
concept.
and
Like
well,
Buckminster Fuller might keep asserting
well,
that
Buckminster
this is a
Fuller-
word that needs to be used.
I want to interject something
Okay.
because Buckminster Fuller, we did a program about a year ago, and we spoke with someone named Norm I forgot his-
Curland,
Curlin, and he runs an institute for
justice or whatever,
justice and
human justice.
human justice and
Right.
human justice and economics.
Yeah.
He said, "You guys sound like Buckminster Fuller." I never realized Buckminster Fuller happened to be
A-
talking about energy units.
And he was a
A
humanitarian.
You a great humanitarian, and
Mhm.
I never realized that. So all I knew about Buckminster Fuller was he was an architect and an inventor and the geodesic dome. However, that's not what he was really about.
Well, that's
that's
what's
what's-
come to us through the editing of history about this individual.
History.
That's all history wants you to
history
remember,
didn't-
if you remember anything, because a lot of people don't
History
even know who
doesn't
he
know
was.
who he was, but I remembered him because of the geodesic dome. However, that's what history wants me to remember about him,
Mhm.
not that he was a hard, fast humanitarian.
That was
And
his main thing.
that's
and
where
all of his
he
inventions,
made his money from the geodesic dome,
But-
selling it to the military. That's where he made
which
his
was
money.
was luck at the end of his life. Most of his life, he was living off of probably a stipend that was family money, and then the generosity of really good friends. And he was not
But the point-
a successful businessman
point
until
I'm
the end
making
of his life.
is he came up with a measurement, an energy measurement that all human beings must be figured with, and he used a kilowatt hour. We are using any energy unit, doesn't matter.
And we're actually
but-
starting with human energy,
but-
which is the real bottom line.
Right,
here.
and we all need a certain amount of energy units for food, which is given to you by the sun, which is about 1 million energy units. We're going to call them calories because they're easy to understand when you relate it to food. We can say the same energy units, 1 million a year. A certain amount of energy units for water from the sun, which is through evaporation, to fresh water, which we require to live. And that's again measured in energy units. And also your shelter could be easily measured in energy units depending upon where you live in minimum requirements for shelter. So we're saying all humanity has to have their food and shelter based on energy units. And of course, education is wide open to all people.
And they're actually,
and then we have to add one
of
more
our
thing. We
candidates
have
is
to
talking
add
about that.
one more thing to that because everybody alive has their basic needs met, their food and education and shelter.
But who knows how long?
But it looks how
Yeah.
long they have to work for it. So
Yeah, and who knows
so
how
we're
long that will continue.
we're adding into that the age, of course, there's a lifespan. So we're saying that because of technology, all humanity has to work 1 day a week or 1 hour a day for their basic needs met. However, what makes us human is our wants. That gives you 6 more days or 23 more hours a day to work for your wants. And that's the very important thing. You may need sleep, so we can't say 24 hours, but people sometimes stay awake, working on a project around the clock until they get tired and take a little nap. But the reality is that we are basing it on scientific use of education, food, and shelter based on energy units, and that's how our economy should work. And Buckminster Fuller came up with these things, and he came up with so much more. And that quote that Susan just read, or maybe she should read it again because
Oh, I know Dennis just read it, but I'll read it
you
again
read that again
because it's important. I'm used to the way that Buckminster Fuller writes and his use of language, because I read that 2-inch thick book and other books by him. So it works in my brain now because I've gotten used to it. But sometimes when you first hear something from Buckminster Fuller, you say, what the heck? So here we go again. We
as a species,
we as a species have learned in the last decade from our behavioral science studies that aggression is a secondary behavior of humans. That when he means when humans, when we get what we need, when we need it, and are not overwhelmed, we are spontaneously benevolent. It is only when we become desperate, that we become aggressive because what we have relied on is no longer working. That's a very simple, and I've substituted we for they in this quote by Buckminster Fuller to make it more personal, because this is what it's about. It's about what we know about human behavior to this point, that it's under stress and and when people are overwhelmed, that these defensive and aggressive behaviors start to become more evident, to assert themselves more and more, depending on how much a person is overwhelmed and how much you corner them to the point where they can't survive. And economics now in our most of the world is what is putting these huge pressures on people in general, most of the population of the world. And we can go into that in detail too, but I think that anyone who's working 9 to 5, 5 to 7 days a week understands this intuitively and consciously very easily, how economics is controlling their time, their life, their survival. So, it's interesting because, we've got a presidential election going on right now. And we've got one candidate who and this is, Donald Trump, all he has to do is assert something with authority, and people will, at least for an instant, consider it, does this make sense or what? Because just the assertion is enough to have people consider it. The presence of the person, the authority of the person. He can assert anything he wants, good or bad or whatever, and it has to be processed if you're within hearing range of this person. And his shouting ability is very, very broad, because he's got all the attention of all the networks and the TV and the radio and all that. So we're hearing his authoritative statements and having to process them, because that's what we do. That's what humans are wired for. We created language so that we could more completely understand each other and speak to each other. And now we have to process whatever someone says, especially if it's with authority and that person is running for president. That's pretty big authority. So if a person in this position asserts a stupid thing, a lie, a bad idea, we still have to process it and think about it, use that time. But I'm saying that the same thing happens when you assert something that is best, that is good, that is useful to humanity. And this may sound like Pollyanna or something like that, or like I'm a critically impaired optimist or something like that. But it's not. It's just the other side of what Donald Trump is doing. He's asserting the worst for the most part. And we have to consider it. We're trying to assert something that will make things better for more people.
And
that's what Buckminster Fuller was doing too. And we're asking that just like you consider, these state, we don't have a loud voice like Donald Trump
or
Hillary Clinton, but we have some amount of reverberation, and we're just saying that you have to look at the way that economics is functioning around the world, and it's not a grand conspiracy. It's just the way that it's evolved. And we as a species, we as humans, need to look carefully and see what the goal of our economics now is. It's a profit, scarcity creating, for profit, manipulation of resources for profit. It's not a it's not at the service
of helping
of
human beings.
of humanity.
In other words, as a matter of fact, it's a detriment.
And
It's
a
a
person
detriment. It's a
like
detriment. It's a-
Donald Trump, and even, you know, and both our candidates are very, very wealthy. They've learned to align themselves and manipulate
with the media, and
the
they align
economics.
themselves with very wealthy people so they can
Right.
get support to get the press to talk.
Talk about what
Now
they want
that
to
gives them
do,
a platform.
what their
So
ambitions
the
are.
entire system is totally corrupted, and it's not corrupted because the individual is a bad individual. Whether they are or not is not the point. That's another subjective thing. However, the system itself requires human beings to keep on making more and more money. The money is in itself the entity, instead of the money being the facilitator to transfer the tool to transfer goods and services
to people.
It became the actual commodity.
Right.
So people are making money on money which has nothing to do with helping humanity.
And
therefore, if it makes money and it pollutes the air, the water, and the soil, it's perfectly all right. Of course, you're making money. It's like the old joke where someone says, your money or your life. He says, take my life, because my money I'm saving for my old age.
And,
I mean,
and every time Donald Trump gets the says something outrageous, he knows that all of the press will pick it up, because they will pick it up, because then they get more listeners, and listeners means money.
Exactly.
It means that they've got ratings. They call this ratings, and he just does that. He says outrageous things, which whether he believes them or not, it doesn't matter anymore, because that's who he is. That's his persona. And I guess once you've created a persona like that, I guess that is who you are, and that is what you believe. There may be another Trump somewhere in there, but it's not going to come out in our lifetimes.
I don't think so.
Well, probably not. But we had kind of a realization the other day that we were watching some old Star Trek reruns on the TV, and up comes Quark from Deep Space Nine. He's a Ferengi, and I thought, wow, he kind of looks. That's Donald Trump.
In other words, the Ferengi and
that's just a joke.
We were thinking that. My God, we're thinking about
Trump is
Trump,
a Ferengi.
and a Ferengi comes up, which is not a space person
who just thinks about money and the rules. Quote, the rules of acquisition, unquote. And his mind is completely filled with the game of economics and how to game
Somebody lost
to
their
your
son.
advantage.
Somebody, one of the people from a certain religion lost their son in the U.S. Armed Forces, and they were talking in one.
He died in Iraq.
He died in Iraq, and then they said it was a sacrifice to lose our son. And Donald Trump says, "I sacrificed too." And they said,
and then he listed how he.
I listed all the money he lost. So
no, he listed all the jobs he created and the businesses, and this is not what is meant.
He doesn't even know what a sacrifice is. If you lose an arm or a leg or break a back or be hurt, that's sacrificial. When you have a job, it's collateral damage, and it's sacrificing for the individual. When they say we have collateral damage, or we're going to have, that means we're going to be killing people all around. If we're dropping bombs, it doesn't mean it's just a nicety word. It's physically real, physical things. We need our education, food, and shelter. It's imperative. And we need it, and everyone alive gets that, but we need to have it in the amount of a lifetime. A lifetime. Time is imperative.
Aha, did I hear a clock?
Time is the essence. That's our life. Time clicks by and goes over and over again. Did you hear that, Dennis?
Well, he's actually a couple of seconds behind us. But if I go back
Dennis heard that. That's your clock, right?
Yes. And I'm going to bring out so the human renewal, and you can do. I'm going to tell you what you can do with this. Here's what you need to do to make this happen. We all know the problems. How do we make it work? We make it work by you, every one of you, talking about the human renewable energy
Because
measure
we all,
at your church groups, in
But-
your
and let me
bars,
say the
at your dinner table. Go ahead.
the significance of this, because I know you've said this many times, and if people have listened to our program more than once, they've heard you say this.
But we gotta keep on
And
saying.
this is why it's so significant, because yes, a person like Donald Trump, a person like any politician who can,
Has a platform.
has a platform, more people have to consider what they're saying because they're hearing it, that we have to process it. But you as an individual can also have that opportunity when you're when you're in your own environment. You can bring up difficult subjects like this, like should we be thinking about how we can make our economics better, how we can make it serve people instead of profit. Should we be thinking about this? You can bring this up because anyone around you is going to have to process it. They're going to have to think about it. They may not like it when they first hear it from you, and they may be say, insulting things or not even say anything, or just shrug you off, or have a little smirk on their face or something like, or they may agree with you wholeheartedly and feel immediately that this has a bearing on and this empowers them. This empowers them to think about it and talk about that to their friends. This is a network. It's like what we've artificially created with our internet. We've created a network that connects all our minds. Well, all our minds connected before that. We connect through our conversations with people, and it passes right through the population, one at a time, and it's worked for millions of years since we've created a language. Maybe that's thousands of years, maybe 1.5 million. I don't know when language was created. But anyway, that's what language is. It is our personal internet with other people. And we did that long before we created this tool that I'm talking over now, and that all of us are getting very comfortable with. But what our conversation conveys, and our expressions, and our body language when we're speaking personally to someone else is a huge amount of information that you're not getting through the internet. And that's why we thought, well, let's go on YouTube, because then people can actually see our faces and our expressions and stuff like that. It's a little better than just our disembodied voices. But when you're personally speaking to someone with passion about an idea, with authority, your own personal authority, I am convinced that this is something important, that we need to put humanity into the economic system, and we need to represent them with an energy measure
that can't be manipulated.
That is the baseline, and that is fulfilled first by economics. Food, shelter, education is fulfilled first by our efforts, by our work efforts worldwide, and then you have your free market, which we're having all kinds of fun with, but we cannot expect a free market which is just a toy and a gambling casino, essentially, for people who, in fact, Buffett was saying just recently, he's a very, very wealthy man, and he was talking about another very wealthy person, Donald Trump, and he said when Trump was getting his money together, you had to be a moron not to make money, because he was making his money then too. There are ways to play this system. If you start out with money, you couldn't lose in the 60s.
No, I want to give a demonstration.
After the war.
First of all, I want to show authority. So I'm going to act as a professor. So here I go. Pay attention to this. Dennis, let me know what you think of this. First, I'm going to be a professor. Here we go. Now I'm a professor.
Now
I'm going to tell you something. That all humanity. And here we go.
The hat went off of you.
Wait a second. How did I lose my hat? Here, let me just see. I gotta get my hat back on. Let me get my hat back on. Okay. There's no, that's on you now. Okay, well, we're gonna make Susan the person.
Well, then you speak though.
I gotta bring this right over here.
I'll do a mind meld with you.
Okay, so we're gonna make this happen. Okay, there it goes. Now it's to me. All right. Now I'm gonna go to if I can. The first thing we have to realize, every human being Look at my fan earlier roll.
That's a
What we
fan
all live, we have time, 80 years of age. Time. That's the first thing in the measurement. The human renewal time, 80 years of age. Then we have something else. Education. Every human being needs education.
We need to learn.
Now, something else. Ready? Here we go. We need food. Is that right? We need food. And we need shelter. Education, food, and shelter, and amount of time. Now, that's what we all need for this. Without food, shelter, and education, we will die. And we need it in a certain amount of time.
Right, and that's what Buckminster Fuller was saying. We need, you know, that when they get what they need, when they need it, and are not overwhelmed, they are spontaneously benevolent.
Benevolent society.
It is only when they become desperate and they become aggressive, because what they relied on is no longer working, and that's what we're living through now. And what people relied on, I'm going to work this hard and then I'll get a pension. I'm going to work this hard and I'll be promoted to you know, a better salary, and my company is going to be there for me. I will work this hard for this company and it won't collapse or sell out to another company. And you know, all these things occurred, all these things that people couldn't imagine. They're losing of their pensions, of their health insurance, of their homes, because companies collapsed 7 years ago now with the huge collapse. They call it the Great Recession. I think it was worse than the Depression because it's going to continue. That's weird. Anyways, what we're talking about, that distracted me, that
well, you don't
that
watch
thing.
it.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to because you keep flopping that thing on my head. If people do not get what they want when they need it, meaning what they need to live, not that they need a Porsche or a bigger house or something, that's not what you need.
Basic needs met.
Right. If that's when, and what they relied on is no longer working. I mean, that went on for more than a generation, that people could depend on their
I want to tell you
what
I see.
I don't think anybody.
I want to tell you what
you hear what I'm
yes,
saying?
I want to tell you what I
finish.
see happening now, because it ties into what you're saying.
Okay.
Right now, we see aggression in every aspect of our life.
Right.
If you drive a car, years ago, people had their basic needs met pretty much. They were comfortable in this country. And if you signaled to make a right-hand turn, they wouldn't cut you off. They wouldn't see you coming out into a lane. They would slow up and let you pull in.
It was more relaxed.
When you speak to someone, they smiled at you. When you went to a store, the clerk was spending time and checking you out with giving you a good look. Now they're instructed, you must say hello, thank you, and goodbye, no matter how much of a bad mood you're in. The whole system is coerced. It's based on money, and people are aggressive, and they're not nice, and they're very, very, very rarely friendly. I found if you're friendly to them, they're normally friendly back to you. But in most cases, people are afraid. They're fearful. They're worried about the NSA.
Well, they're much more willing to believe the worst in you and in other people, and this is being placed in people's minds. It's another authoritarian voice that's out there, not even coming from any particular person in this respect, but this voice is saying through all of our various ways that we hear messages, fear. First thing when you meet somebody, they could be somehow
they're worried they're going to steal your social security number. They're going to steal your credit card number. And they're going to hit you over the head and take your money. They're going to steal from you. That's the fear.
Instead of
People, instead of
innocent, and then proven guilty, you're guilty.
until you're proven innocent.
And then it's very, very hard to prove someone innocent from the guilty stance, because it's always tainted by the fact that you thought maybe they could have been of evil intent.
People are more paranoid now than ever before.
I agree.
At least it appears that way.
Well,
maybe,
it feels
maybe
that
because it's the media.
So we do
and
have a lot of
by
contact.
the way, I heard a report yesterday that there's no more terrorism than there has ever been before. But now the media picks up on it.
And we have a bigger population.
And it's actually less
so
terrorism.
The percentage is not any higher than it was if you were
or
looking
even
at a
less.
percentage.
So
I don't know about that.
So that, I mean, that's what the report that someone spent a lot of time studying.
Lifetime study.
So I believe that it's definitely
at Georgetown University.
Yes, a Georgetown University professor who came up with that. So, but the media is picking up on, look at all these terrorists. Watch out! Don't go abroad. You may get killed. Well, you can walk out and there's more people dying in car accidents every day. There's like 80 people a minute. Don't quote me on that, but it's a lot of people dying just in car accidents than you'll ever see dying through even a bomb or a terrorist bomb. But there's more people dying because of economic systems.
The stresses of economics.
Than ever can any other substance we know. It's not heart attacks that are killing people. It's not natural causes that are killing people. It's accidents. People, and matter of fact, even if you're an alcoholic, you don't die from alcoholism in most cases. You die from the accidents that happen to you because of the drinking problems. You're dying because of your stresses, or people who rush like hell driving to get ahead of the next person so they can stop at the next light. It's unbelievable the amount of annoyances and stresses that we're putting on each other.
Well, that's one of the things about vehicles and driving in cars. They do become expressions of the personality of the person driving.
Right.
And other people who are on the road, they sense the personality of the other person by the way that they're driving, and you'll either stay away from them or pass them to get away from them, or slow down so that you don't have to be endangered by their driving attitude. But you see, we're just saying that, well, we do a lot of driving,
right?
And so we do see a lot of this particular kind of aggression going on, and we drive in different places, country, city, everywhere, up and down the East Coast, and it's pretty consistent, except if you get really into remote areas where there's not as much traffic and whatever,
right.
then things calm down a bit. But I wanted to also introduce, if that's okay, a little different tack, but it's not that different, because in going through all these old programs and transcribing them, I find that I'd like to go back to some of the things we covered in the past, like concept of zero, and how that was so significant.
Let me ask Dennis about that. Dennis, do you remember the conversation we had on zero, on the concept of zero?
Well, when you remind me, I will remember. Go ahead.
Okay. In other words, if I ask you how much money you have in your wallet, you can't tell me that if you don't know where zero was, right?
Okay, right.
If I ask you how many cups you have in your closet, or how many pennies you have in your pocket, without knowing zero, you really can't count.
Okay, I understand. Yes, there's a big difference between what's in your wallet and zero. Yes.
Well, you don't know it. You don't even know what the concept of zero is. We know those human beings didn't have that concept. If I didn't know how to get from zero, I can't get to 1 or 2 or 3 or 10, because we don't have a zero concept. You have to know what zero is, and then 1. All the computers work on plus and minus, 0 and plus, 0 and plus. So you always have to have a point of 0 in our
And we're kind of
language.
asserting that the human energy measure, human energy, renewable energy measure is the 0 that we need for our economic systems.
Right.
It is, you know, if you don't have a place to start with your computing, you are nowhere in reference to anything. And that's why the value of the dollar can be manipulated. That's why they call it fiat currency. That's why, you know, we can see the price of a barrel of oil go this way and that way, but it doesn't change the price significantly that you're paying for it at the pump. And you know, they can make.
And when we talk about,
you know, and you were saying that when oil was $40 a barrel, maybe 10 years ago.
Or 20 years ago.
Yeah, we were
It was
paying,
$1 a gallon.
and we were paying $1 a gallon, but now it's $40 a barrel.
And we're
what
still
we're paying
$2 a gallon.
$2 and $3
So
a gallon.
the thing is
So
that,
it's
see,
that, you know,
no,
that's just fungible
but the
every
thing is,
which way
that's
because there's
it's
no
not-
0. There's
it's
nothing
not
to.
based on anything.
Right.
It's subjective. We need an objective number, and you can't get to an objective number until you understand 0, until you realize that human beings have to have their basic needs met. 0 concept. And then we say human beings need their education, food, and shelter. And food and shelter is measurable in energy units. And education, of course, is just your mind. That is not measurable. People ask me that. It's not. It's what you choose, and that's what makes us human. Our education is what makes us human, what we choose to learn, what we choose to want. Our needs are exactly the same as any needs for any physical, for any human, any living thing. Our needs are exactly the same. Trees require food and shelter, oxygen, water. They require it. They're living things. Squirrels, birds, any mammals require. Any living thing requires a certain amount, a measurable amount of energy units to stay alive. So do we, and we all live a certain lifespan. About humans, 80 years. Cats and dogs, about 15 years. Every parrots live 80 years like we do. All I'm saying is that we need to make sure we measure these things, and we need a point of 0. And what you can do about it, you can do something about it. Please use your internet. Use whatever. Look, yesterday we stopped to buy some, I hate to say it, one of our wants is chocolate. Chocolate. We like chocolate. So I stopped at our local candy maker, and in that candy maker was a fellow who saw me pull up, and we got talking, and he's a ham operator. Ham operator, meaning I don't mean he makes ham. I mean, he uses a radio to talk on, and it's called ham radio. And
It's on a what, low frequency?
I don't know what,
Yeah.
I don't understand what ham radio
It's
is.
a certain frequency that they operate on.
It's like shortwave or whatever.
Right, shortwave.
But we got talking about the HRAM, obviously, because that's what I do. When I meet people, I talk to them about what's wrong with the problem. And Dennis, you would say it's probably dysfunctional government. I would not say that. I would say it's a dysfunctional government, which I'll agree with you for, not helping the most majority. It's helping the rich. So what's wrong with that? So we go to the next level down, and we talk about, we keep on peeling away the onion until we find out the core. The core problem, we believe, is the human renewable energy measure. It's not there. We need to put it into position. Well, this fellow was talking to me about this HRAM, and I didn't tell him to use the ham radio about talking about this. But I can see his mind working where I planted the seed so he may use his ham radio to do that. Very nice fellow, tall guy. He had a cane, so he was sort of disabled, so I didn't ask him why. And then I met another fellow down the road. He had a long beard like mine, and we were sitting on a boat. We were doing some work on the boat, and he walked over to me, and he lives near us, believe it or not. We didn't know it. And he starts talking about what he's doing. He's a musician. And we talked about the HRAM. That's 2 people I spoke to yesterday without even trying.
So this is a way that anyone can assert.
Right, and he may write, he has musician
something
friends,
that other people have to
and
consider.
they may do music together and talking about this HRAM idea. So this is what we do to move this forward. Every human being, use your own way of doing it.
Well,
Get
you
involved.
always have it at the tips of your lips, essentially,
Right.
because you can speak to someone that you meet, even if it's a stranger, and say, "What do you think about this? You know, I heard something about this, you know, and I'm thinking about it. What do you think?" Or, you know, if you're really onto it and impassioned by it, then you can actually promote it to someone.
I'm going to ask you to do something else. I'm going to ask you if you understand what I'm saying. We don't want your money to help promote the concept. We could use it, and therefore you could put in money to a nonprofit group, which is Renew the Earth. It's on your screen now. renewtheearth.org. There's a PayPal button if you want to put some money in. But more importantly, don't join a group. Start your own group about the HRM. Make your own cards up. Talk about how important it is to have a basic measurement into the vocabulary. So all humanity has to, no matter where you are in the world, your basic needs met for a minimal amount of your lifetime. And then your wants take over. So it's still saying use a free market. We're not saying it's communism or socialism or any other ism.
It's not an ism.
It's not an ism. It's a measurement that needs to be put into the language. So all the isms work in cooperation. And the key word here is in cooperation, not in competition. I don't want you to be in competition with me, or I don't want to be in competition with you. I want to help you move forward. Don't join my group. Don't be in competition with my group. Start your own group. We come together to move for the benefit of all of humanity.
See, a person like Donald Trump wants you to give up your individual thought processes and just use his. We're not asking you to give up processes.
Anything.
We're just asserting something that we'd like each of you to consider. If you want to not consider it, that is your individual, you know, right. And that's important that you assert that. I just want to read another quote from Buckminster Fuller that I think it speaks to what you were just saying. And he says here, somebody ruminating after they have a little free time because they're not working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're working maybe 3 hours a week and or 5 hours a week or 1 day a week for their basic needs. So they have some time to think. And he's imagining what they're going to think when they get that some time, some free time. And he says right here, quote, "What was it I was thinking when they told me I had to earn my living doing what someone else had decided needed to be done? What do I see that needs to be done that no one else is attending to? What do I need to learn to be effective in attending to it in a highly efficient and inoffensive to others manner?"
So in other words, every human being can do something, and we can call it work.
Once you have time to think about what it is that's not being done, I think that's what do I see that needs to be done that no one else is attending to? For some reason, once Jeff and I got a little free time, we thought of this concept of the human renewable energy measure, and that we felt that that's missing from our economic
we asked ourselves, what's wrong?
We were asking that
there
question
was something
for years,
wrong with the system, and we thought it might have been energy. We thought it might have been politics. We
so it's
thought
been
it might
a long
have
road to this.
So, and then it took, we said, wait a second, the politics and the energy is all. And we said, well, we don't have renewable energy because the politics is messed up. Then we said, well, what's controlling politics? Well, the money in politics, the amount of money they put into politics, the fossil fuel industry puts a fortune into politics. So therefore, we have to have campaign finance reform. Well, what's controlling that? Why won't we get that out? We talked about that for 20 years. What's wrong with that? Renewable energy is obviously a good way to go, but there's some why isn't it happening? Because the economic system isn't working. The media is controlled by telling not quite truths out about renewable energy. I even have some very bright physicists I work with says, well, renewable energy isn't as good as nuclear power. But the reality is that if we keep on working on it for a renewable energy that is sustainable, that we don't keep on polluting, because we can pollute with everything we do. But if we get better technology, you don't throw away your old panels. You take the old panels, you rework them to put the best technology in. So eventually you're cutting your pollution down. Eventually you're getting the best possible technology. Now, if people ask me also that, how do you pay for these things? Well, you don't. You pay for them by working. Now, here's your problem. So, very interesting thing. You would, if you keep on printing up money to pay for something, and the money hits the banks and people make money on money, you are going to create inflation. However, supposing I just print up arbitrary money with a number on it to do only one thing, to make sure I transfer that piece of paper that has a number on it, like a warranty on a part you buy. And all that does is guarantee the people getting paid to fix that part for you. It never can make money on that. Then the guy gets paid to fix the part, and he buys his food and shelter. But the minute that piece of paper hits the bank, it's destroyed. So it's not part of the economic system. It's not part of making money on money. It's part of making human beings have their basic needs met without creating stuff that doesn't help the society out. So if I want to make sure all humanity has the best technology in automobiles, everybody in the world, if they choose to have it. Now, I might choose to have an old DeSoto or an old amphibious car or something. That might be my choice as an individual. However, as a general rule, if everybody needed the most efficient possible car made, they take their old car, it goes into a place that people work there a few hours a day or hour a day, and they refurbish it with the best technology. You give them a piece of paper that has a little UPS code on it, and that the minute that piece of paper hits the bank, they immediately bought their rent, or their mortgage, and all paid for their work they did, and then that's destroyed. So you're not making money on money. You created no inflation, but you physically have the best solar panels on your building or around your community.
Because economics needs to be economical.
It needs to be economical, and you can't make money on something. Right. If you happen to the most efficient way you can do something, I found that when I work in the shop, or I brush my teeth, or I do my
keep refining the efficiency.
I take everything out of the medicine chest, and I do in order, and then I put it back in the medicine chest, so all the stuff is done efficiently. Place is cleaned up. It's an efficient way of living. Now, that's my way of doing it. Some people don't have, they have different ways. The most efficiency is the best way you can do it is efficiency. And efficiency is part of our thinking process. And I think that without efficiencies, we keep on messing things up. If you can't keep your house organized, or your life organized, then you just go through life until you drop dead and it's over. But the more efficient you can make something, the more you are efficient, the more the society is efficient, and it benefits the entire society around you. And we don't, in our economic system, it's not economical. It's not efficient. It's built on waste and more waste and more waste.
And control of artificial scarcity is another thing that it's built on, which is very damaging.
Yeah, I mean, in other words,
because our technology is so advanced.
And they're saying supply and demand. Well, if the demand is higher, you increase the supply. You don't cut the supply down to charge more money.
Yeah, what the economic system understands as demand is who has the most money to pay for what I've got, not who needs it. It's where's the money, where's the dough, and that's yes.
So we only have 4 minutes.
Okay, but I'll close with a quote from Buckminster Fuller about the human mind. I think this is very interesting. No factor operative aboard our planet so effective in aggregating, reorganizing, concentrating, and refining the disorderly random resource receipts as is the human mind. Human mind has discovered a number of cosmic laws, generalized scientific principles. Human mind developed the computer whose combined information storage and retrieval vastly augmented human brain's information storing, retrieving, and formulate disclosing, magnificently augmented human mind's local universe problem-solving task and rendering that cosmic functioning of human mind highly effective. I'll read that last sentence over because I think I emphasized the wrong words, but he's saying that the development of the computer and how we're using that now magnificently augmented our human minds, local universe problem-solving task, and rendered that cosmic functioning of human mind highly effective. So we've enhanced our ability to think because we've got so easy information at our fingertips, literally, to type in whatever question is on our minds into the internet,
and get
and
some kind of an answer.
you will get information about that subject. So we are carrying literally with our smartphones a genius in our pockets, but it represents all the accumulated knowledge of that's been posted. So yeah, that's been the product of human existence. And this is very similar to the kind of enhancement that in industry that fossil fuel has conveyed over the last 200 years or so.
The computer can enhance our ability to
think.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And this mind within nature that we have is not that other animals might not have the capacity to think as like this. There is in the oceans, the dolphins have bigger brains than we have, but they're processing completely different information than we are here as terrestrial, walking about on two legs type people, things, creatures, living animals. And our minds are unique within our natural environment right now because we want to think about everything, and we'll consider anything, just like I asserted earlier. Anything that someone asserts with authority, anyone within hearing range of that assertion will have to process it because we created.
If they
they'll
listen
either
to it,
accept
they have to
it,
listen to it.
they'll either accept it or reject it, or accept parts of it or reject parts of it, or whatever. However they process, each individual processes it, in their own way. So invention of our communication, our minds to invent communication that's that intricate, that we're willing to process anything. And so then what you're coming to is, who are you? What is it that you want to see go on into the future? What is it that you believe? Do you believe
your neighbors don't ever work because they closed the factory? You try to stretch your paycheck, but it's never quite enough. Oh, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought.
What's wrong with
It all comes down to energy.
Want to believe these things? Is it
Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake. Cars and farms and factories and trucks. Supplies go down and prices soar. Our futures are at stake.
Our
And
social
when it's gone,
economic
it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.
Ridiculous. and they cause.
We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even trash converts to biofuels. Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.